We're back with a recent client purchase here in the Brisbane market. Now, myself and the team at Purpose Property help homeowners or investors buy property here in the Southeast Queensland market. We buy homes generally as low as around that $550,000 up to several million dollars. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down a recent client purchase on Brisbane's Bayside. This area is blue chip and we've been able to buy well below the median price. We're going to break down a little bit of the background of our clients, why they decided to work with us when they've worked with other buyers agents in the past, and how we help them secure a property that ticked their boxes in terms of buying a higher quality investment with that long-term growth potential and a very strong underlying land size. Now, my name's Luke and I talk all things real estate, renovating and financial freedom. If you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already, and drop a like on this video for me sharing with you this address once you stick around to the end, then that'd be great. All right, let's dive straight into this recent client property purchase. Now on screen here, you can see a low set brick and tile home with a little garden bed out the front and clear drivable side access on the left hand side. This is a very bread and butter looking property, and it could be located anywhere across Southeast Queensland, built in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. These style of properties are very popular because they're lower maintenance, they give people opportunity to add value as well, easy to repaint the roof, easy to render, easy to upgrade over time. And so this style of property ticks a lot of boxes for us from the get-go. As we move through, you can see the home is not in poor condition. It's got tiled floors, some basic carpet, lofted ceilings here, and a very reasonable sized kitchen. Looking at the aerial shot, you can see that the front yard could be claimed back with some fencing. The clients could move the fencing a lot further forward to get this front space for car parking or just a fence in for pets or kids. And there's clearly a large backyard here when you're looking compared to some of the neighbours that's nice and free, which means we're looking potentially at granny flat potential. We always want the potential on these deals. We want the opportunity to come back and add cash flow at a later date. And we did our sewerage and plumbing and electrical checks and all those things, and we were comfortable that this deal, based on the positioning of the house, had solid granny flat potential. Now, looking at the bathroom, you can see the bathroom is got some value add potential. It's certainly rentable as is, but there's potential to upgrade the tiles, to redo the shower essentially, put in a new vanity. There's money that could be spent there at a point in time when it makes sense. Now with this client, they'd worked with a buyer's agent in the past, and they decided to come and work with myself and the team at Purpose Property for a different perspective and to use and leverage our skills and resources to help them secure their next investment property. It's about the right team at the right time, and as long as the team you're working with is helping you move forward, then you're moving in the right direction. And so working with our clients here, I gave them some feedback on their current property portfolio. I actually told my clients one of the properties that their previous buyer's agent had bought them, I would never have purchased, and I recommended that they sell that asset, realize the cash, and use those funds to buy maybe a property elsewhere, maybe in Perth or Adelaide or Melbourne, or buy another property here in Brisbane, depending on what they wanted to do. So after having a discussion with the clients and sitting down with them and going through the numbers on each of their properties, they did decide to sell that underperforming asset. That allowed them to make this purchase that we're going through today and potentially gear up for another purchase in the future. So don't just look at the individual property purchase, you need to look at your portfolio holistically. And that's what I do on my own personal journey. I look at every asset and I look at it on today's values. I don't look at it on what I bought it for, because I'm interested, am I going to hold this property from today? Based on its current yield, based on its current value, would I buy this asset again? Or should I sell it and upgrade or change the style of asset that I'm into? And that's exactly what I did this year. I sold one of my properties that I bought earlier in my property portfolio journey and bought two different other assets which I could manufacture more value, had more granny flat potential to boost the cash flows. And so look at your own journey and potentially look at where you can restructure or sell down at the right point in time. So as we continue to move through the home, you'll see there's again another shot of that frontage with that nice drivable side access. This is a shot of the rear yard. You can see the old Hills hoist and a back shed here. So this is where we would put a granny flat right in the middle of that backyard, and you'd fence along the back of the home, fence the front yard off for the front home, and then they'd have their own separate spaces. This block's close to that 700 square meters in terms of size, so very functional in terms of adding a granny flat. And you could even keep the carport, and if you fence along the back here, the carport could be used for the granny flat as is, straight away. You can see here it's got those high ceilings, which we really like in terms of, hot air rising, as well as appeal to tenants or future buyers if you do sell the property down the track. Again, this is a built-in original car space. This would have probably been a carport or a garage, I should say, earlier, and it's been built in with a bar and tiled. This could be converted into a fourth bedroom down the track, and potentially the laundry converted into an ensuite. Now, it might not be worth spending that capital, but for the right client, there's the value there to realize that. Again, moving through the home, you can see it's basic ceiling fans, curtains, white walls, carpet, exactly what you need in a rental property. Air cons are great for tenants. They love that, especially here in the Brisbane market. And this is where it gets really interesting. So we're looking at the floor plan of the house here. This was that family bar area that I said you could potentially convert into a master with an ensuite. The kitchen, dining, living, I wouldn't really change this layout. I'd keep that as is as a rental. And then your original bedroom spaces, which are on the small side, but very reasonable for a rental property with that bathroom off to the side. So the carport that's currently there, I would fence along the back of the house, across the alfresco, and then up to the front of the property. And that's how I would separate the house and the granny flat on this type of deal. So if you've stuck around this far, it's time to talk about what the property is likely to rent for. And we'll also talk about the area because, like I said, this is located on the Bayside of Brisbane and in a very blue chip suburb. So this is located in a suburb called Ormiston, and that is along the southern Bayside of Brisbane in an area called Redlands City Council. Now, Ormiston has a college which is very well known. It's a private school that is highly regarded here in southeast Queensland. Ormiston also has houses near the shoreline. It's also got a train station. So there's a lot going in this suburb. Now, we were able to pick this property up for $881,000, and the current median sits over the $1 million price point at this point in time. Now, yes, this is a basic 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home on around that 660 square meters, but it's got so much potential. And all the properties around it are very expensive. It's very much the style of property that I would like to buy in my own property journey because I'm buying below the median price point. I'm buying with value add potential. I could turn that 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom potentially into a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. And I have the ability to add a granny flat. Now, the minimum block size I generally recommend is around 550 to 600 square meters at a minimum when you're looking to build a secondary dwelling. You need to remember you want to create clear separation between the house and granny flat, and so you want the house sitting further forward on the block, which is the case for this property in Ormiston. The address of the home is 109 Bainbridge Street, Ormiston, and it's in a very good position in the suburb, not far from the high school, not far from the train line, and a short drive to the Bayside locations, depending on where you want to go, if you want to drive out to Wellington Point, for example. Now, the yield is going to be a little bit compressed. The home is not ultra well presented in terms of modern renovations and a luxury style listing, and so the yield will also be a little bit compressed. Also, when you're paying more for property, you're typically paying more for the land and the land value. The 3-bedroom home that sits on that location is generic. It's going to be, you can replicate that 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home in lots of locations, like I said at the start, across Brisbane. So the rental yield will be around that $650 per week. Now, on a gross yield basis, that sits around 3.85% gross yield on $650 per week based on that $881,000 purchase price. But the real kicker here is that median price point. Yes, you're only getting a 3.8, 3.9% yield, but look at the median prices and where they're heading. You can see at the moment, we're sitting at a median based on 79 sales between October 2023 and September 2024 of 1.25 million. And so depending on how many bedrooms you have or where you are in the suburb, that means this property has potential to create value cosmetically through the renovations, maybe adding that bedroom and bathroom and adding a granny flat as well. As you can see on screen, Ormiston is located 27 kilometres east of Brisbane City. So Ormiston is the second station in towards Brisbane CBD. You can see here that the property is located not far from Ormiston College. If we switch over to the satellite view, it'll give you a much better view. You can see here, you've got the college grounds, you've got the train line running through, you've got the Bayside here, we've got Raby Bay as well, where there's lots of expensive homes. And this is in the heart of a suburban area of Ormiston, which we like. You don't want to be out in the sticks, in these new build areas too much or too close to the commercial properties here. So in this pocket of standard residential homes is what we like as buyers agents, because you're not buying away on the fringe of things. You're not buying too close to these riskier areas, backing onto commercial. You're not backing onto the train line or in too smaller block sizes. Now for these clients, this property was a step up. The properties they bought previously were lower price points, and that's great when you're starting out your property portfolio. It can make sense for you to buy $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 houses if that's all you can afford. But in my opinion, you should be more focused on growth when you're building out the property portfolio rather than cash flow. So in the case of this property specifically in their bigger portfolio, this property is largely focused on growth, land size and location. It's going to have that lower yield, but that will balance out with some of their cheaper priced properties. Now, the view here is you could hold these properties for 3, 5, 7 years, sell down some of the assets, and then add granny flats on the assets that make sense at a future date. And that's exactly what Emily and I have done in our own property journey. We've built out a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, now sitting at 4 houses ourselves here in Southeast Queensland, 2 which are more blue chip, closer to that $2 million price point, and 2 which are more around that $800,000 to $900,000 price point. That allows us to have a balance of very high growth locations with the lower yields, as well as holding some lower price properties where we can go and renovate and add value or add granny flats to those properties to boost the cash flow. Generally, what I say to most people is I want to hold my higher priced properties in personal names because of negative gearing benefits, which currently still exist, and they talk about them every year, whether they're going to get rid of them or not. As well as land tax benefits, you get a higher land tax threshold in your personal names. And then the cheaper properties, that's the ones you probably want to buy more in trust structures, where you're looking to add granny flats to those sooner rather than later to bring those trusts into positively geared situations sooner. I hope you've gotten value out of us sharing these recent client deals with you, sharing the addresses, sharing the thought process, why we like these styles of assets. I'm giving a lot of information here that a lot of other buyers agents probably wouldn't. So if you could do me a favor and subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video, that would really help me out. Now, in addition to all that, if you do want to sit down and have a chat with myself, head over to purposeproperty.com.au. You can book in a 30-minute session. We'll sit down, talk about your situation, talk about your property portfolio, how you could potentially restructure or buy the right assets to continue growing your asset base and set yourself up for success into the future. So head over to purposeproperty.com.au to do that. Thanks for sticking around, and click this video over here if you want to see the full playlist of recent client purchases. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.